Good morning.
Yes,
Good
hello.
morning. Hello, hello. It's so good to see you.
It is.
So, good morning to you. Good afternoon for us. It is almost 6 p.m. here in Italy.
Yes.
So thank you very much and welcome. Few words about Heather. I have already invited Heather and thank you for accepting participating in BAWI 2024. I want to share to you a very important result for us. We reached over 400 people registered in this event, which is
Yay.
absolutely the biggest number we have achieved in IABA Italy chapter. So I want to say again, thank you to all participants and all those who have registered in this event. Heather was together with me in the board of chapter of IABA. We spent a long time in discussing about underlying competencies for
Mhm.
for business analysts, but not only that. And I remember that we did many interesting things. So, Heather, the stage is now to you. Just let me know if you want me to share the presentation or you want to do it by yourself. What do you prefer?
You can share it. That would be great. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Kaylee, for inviting me, and congratulations to everyone in Italy in the IABA chapter who's joining. Congratulations for investing in yourself. And I want to thank everyone who's involved in supporting this chapter because it's a lot of work. I myself was a chapter leader in central Iowa in the United States, where I am from, and have been a longtime volunteer for IABA. And business analysis professionals are my favorite people. So I'm spending time now internationally with my favorite people in the world. We're going to talk a bit today about emotional intelligence in an AI world. Enough about me. Let's go on. Let's talk about emotional intelligence. So next slide, please, Michele. So we are living in a really, really interesting time. There's an intersection of people and technology unlike any other time, and it changes so rapidly, and things are happening so fast. Now, in my own life, some of you will relate to me. I grew up when my friends moved. I wrote a letter on paper and I put a stamp on it and I mailed it. I had my children before the internet existed, and wasn't able to look up what that cough meant at midnight. I lived at a time when I was having kids where there was a phone on my wall with a cord, and you didn't call people after 10 p.m. unless somebody was dead. It was that different of a world. Today, people have access to information 24/7. Parents have so much more access to almost misinformation to be worried. So we have a lot of technology that's helping us, but I would say that underlying it all is we're still people. So I often say that business analysis is the people business. And although I was looking at the underlying competencies that Michele had shared, and I would say that 4 of them really relate with the topic that we're going to talk about with emotional intelligence in people: communication, interaction, behavioral characteristics, and I would say analytical thinking and problem solving also has to do with people. So what we're going to talk about today is really fundamental to how we become a better professional going forward. And emotional intelligence is how we understand people, we understand ourselves and other people. So let's talk about that. Next slide, please. Emotional intelligence has been around for a long time. Some of you might recognize this person. It's been something that we've been thinking about for a while. You may have studied it, you may have heard about it. It's not a new concept. And, Plato said this quote, all learning has an emotional base. So back then, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, people were thinking about it. Well, I'm a person and you're a person, so it should be easy to work with people, right? No. I would say of all complexities, people are the most complex. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit about me in the next slide. These are titles that I have. So some of you are going to have similar titles. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a mother, I'm an aunt, I'm a great aunt. I've been a wife, I've been a widow, I've been a caregiver, I'm a friend, I'm a teacher, I'm a worker, and lots of other titles. And I am super complex. And I bring all of that with me to every conversation, just like you do. Next slide, please. We are a combination of all of these things. We are a mix of our beliefs, our successes, our failures, our culture, our language, our relationships, everything that we've experienced personally and professionally. And we need to understand how we feel at any given moment. And we need to understand how another person or people, our different stakeholders, are feeling as well. So let's talk about the foundation of emotional intelligence. So we can all agree we're really complex. There is a Disney movie, some of you may have seen it or heard about it. The movie is called Inside Out, and it's about a little girl named Riley. And it shows how she has 5 emotions in her head, just like the picture shows. They are joy, anger, sadness, fear, and disgust. And every single one of us has these emotions. And in the movie, it shows Riley from being born and transitioning to a move when she's 11 and lots of different things. So she's dealing with things. So in her life, these emotions work together and they trigger her giggling when she's happy. They trigger her crying when she is sad or when she's angry or fearful or disgust when she's introduced to broccoli, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie when she throws the broccoli across the room as a baby. Her emotions are managing her and dealing with the complexities. So each of us has these same kind of emotions in our life, and we are trying to figure out how to respond. Hopefully, none of us throw broccoli or another vegetable that we don't care for across the room anymore as adults. Some people may not have progressed with that. So we need to master our own emotions, but they're not as simple as just these 5. So the next slide is going to show a model. And Robert Plutnik has described this wheel of emotions. It tells us a lot of information. He identifies 8 primary ones: joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, disgust, anger, and anticipation. Now, there's not just those. These have gradients, some that are less intense, some that are more intense. So it also shows that our emotions have opposites. So joy, which is shown in yellow, is the opposite of sadness, down below shown in blue. So thinking about our bodies and how we react to these emotions, our physiology of emotions, when we are joyful, we want to connect. We want to be part of an initiative. But when we are sad, we want to withdraw. We don't want anything to do with it. We don't even want to talk about it. So we've got an opposite view. Same thing with fear. Fear and anger, very, very interesting in our work because I think people are afraid of a lot of the changes that we might be working on. So when we're afraid, we are going to get small and withdraw and kind of hide and be sheltered. But when we're angry, we get very loud and we jump and we're just big and angry. Anticipation is the opposite of surprise. So when we're anticipating something, we are really looking at it closely. We're excited. We want to know about it. We're reading about it. We're learning about it. But when we're surprised by something, for example, by the way, you're changing offices tomorrow. What? Surprise. I jump back and I'm not sure how to react because I don't know what's happening because I'm very surprised. Disgust is the opposite of trust. So when I trust something, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to be excited about it. I'm going to be willing to try it. But when I am disgusted by it, I'm going to reject it and want nothing to do with it. So it gives us some information about all these emotions and what we're doing. So the combination of the emotions, there's some without a color on this wheel. So they're combinations. So we've got anticipation and joy. So we've got the orange and the yellow. The combination of those two is optimism. What a powerful emotion optimism is. And a big part of emotional intelligence is being optimistic. Joy and trust combine to be love. And these give you information. Now, you're also going to show the intensity. So this wheel, the outside of the flower petal is a lighter color shade. As it gets more intense, the color shade deepens. Let's look at anger. So anger as an emotion starts off with annoyance. I bet you we can all relate to this. Um, Something that is annoying to us, we're not really happy about it. We haven't yet moved to anger, but eventually that annoyance, if we don't check it, comes to anger. Now, anger on its own is a powerful emotion, but the most powerful demonstration of it is rage. We definitely do not want to get to the point of rage. This gives us a guideline of how we can help manage feelings. So, when we think about emotions and what we're feeling and what someone else is feeling, it's all of this stuff. So, not super simple, but also not unmanageable. Okay, next slide, please. Once we understand what our emotions are, another component of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. So thinking about those emotions and what you're feeling is the first step. You've got to get a handle on your own emotions and understand what's going on. This is a really rare skill, to be self-aware, but very, very valuable. And because we work with people, we need to have a better check on our own emotions. Uh, Something that I work on myself is taking feedback. There were earlier times in my career where I would get feedback and I would be so crushed. I would think I'm getting fired, I'm not good at my job, none of which I had any basis. I've never been fired. I've never really been told I'm not good at my job. I've been told things that I can work on and improve. But my self awareness took a moment for me to think about, wait a minute, how am I feeling? What is it that I'm really afraid of? And how do I manage those emotions? So I don't know if any of you have ever had those experiences where your emotions can run away and you can tell stories, and they're complete books dedicated to this, learning about how we knew our deal with our emotions. So thinking about some things that I have done, there's an acronym in the English, at least. I'm not sure what the Italian component would be for an acronym, but it's called HALT. HALT. So when I'm starting to feel something, and this is often used in parenting, but it applies to each of us as well, so we can parent ourselves. So I ask myself, H, am I hungry? Have I had enough to eat today? Or I might add, am I dehydrated? Have I had enough water today? So maybe I need to just have a snack and drink some water, and then I can feel a little bit differently. A is, am I angry? Is there something upsetting in my life going on personally and professionally? What is it that I'm angry about? Do I need to take a walk? Do I need to do some deep breathing? What is it that I can do to help manage that anger so it doesn't turn into rage, right? And or the L is lonely. Am I lonely? Am I feeling disconnected? Do I need to phone a friend? Do I need to go if I'm in an office, can I go talk to somebody in the office? Can I send a text message? Lots of ways we can connect. But how is it that I can deal with this lonely feeling of not being being disconnected? And the T is tired. So if I am tired, and I would say I've learned in my advanced age that the two secrets to life are drinking enough, actually three, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, and stretching. Those things will change my life if I just make sure I do those three things. So ask yourself, am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? What can I do to control myself? So that's a self awareness. So making sure we understand what it is. You can breathe in, do deep breaths in and out. That's really helpful for self awareness. So self awareness. Next slide. Now we understand emotions, we understand self awareness. Now we need to regulate ourselves. So we're aware of what's going on. There's a great book. It is called The Four Agreements. And this is written by a Toltec Indian guy, Don Miguel Ruiz. And he offers four agreements that we can make with ourselves. So this is, again, me as a person. I do this. The first one is to be impeccable with your word. And this is a really important aspect of thinking about it. Words do matter. There's a phrase I don't know if it's in Italy as well. It's sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I guarantee you, words do hurt us. Words might hurt more than a physical action. So thinking about what we say and how we say it is always important. As a business analysis professional, what we say is extra important because people do listen to us, and we set the example for meetings and initiatives. So making sure that we're always speaking true things, we're always speaking kind things. Uh, do what you say you're going to do. Keep your word. Second one, don't take anything personally. Oh my goodness, is this valuable? If someone is having a hard day and they send you an ugly email that has accusatory language, just really harsh tone, if they send that to you, the chances are that it's something going on with them. It's got nothing to do with you personally. So when you adopt this agreement with yourself, I am not going to take this personally. Something my mom taught me is she said, no one is worthless. You can always be a bad example. So what that means is when that person sends that email, or maybe you're in or I've seen it at restaurants. I've seen people mistreat waiters. I've seen people mistreat clerks at a sales event. That you watch that and you think, oh my goodness, that is a really bad example. I don't want to ever treat someone else like that. So that's a way you can just decide, I'm just not going to take it personally. I'm going to look to someone behaving badly and understand something's going on with them. Thirdly, don't make assumptions. Now, assumptions are a really important part of our work when they're verified. So we can make assumptions about any given situation. Something that happens for me is if I schedule a meeting and nobody shows up, my assumption is, oh my goodness, I'm not doing a good job. People don't want to work with me. I've somehow, miscommunicated, when in fact, they're just running late from another meeting. So I work hard at not making assumptions. Fourthly, always do your best. If you as a person are trying your best to do accurate work, you're trying to be kind, you're trying to be complete in your requirements, you can't ask for anything more. So always do your best. So these are some agreements that we can make with ourselves to self-regulate. Okay, next slide, please. Now the next, empathy. I think that this will be the number one distinguishing characteristic for human beings as we move into the future. The ability to understand other people and to have empathy. So Psychology Today gives this definition. It's the ability to understand and share thoughts and feelings of others. It's not feeling sorry for someone. It's being able to sit with someone as they grieve, or give someone the benefit of the doubt, or understanding that they're doing their best and maybe they're just struggling with something. So how do I do this? Next slide, please. How do I acquire empathy? Empathy is a complex skill, and Brene Brown is an author that offers a lot of insight to this. She says, empathy fuels connection and sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy is feeling with people, and it's a choice. It's being vulnerable because we're going to feel something that they have felt and that they know that feeling. So this picture is me holding my mom's hand. And this was my mom had this is this is me being vulnerable. No matter how many times I try to talk about this without getting teary, I just can't, because I had heard from many people about how hard it is to take care of aging parents. And I knew it, and I understood to the extent that I could, and then I experienced it. So this is actually the day before we placed my mom in a care center. So my siblings and I had worked to take care of her. Thank you. Take care of her in her home. And it was during COVID, so we couldn't place her in a care center until after COVID, and we could visit her. And so my life experience of caring for her and many, many other life experiences has helped me to acquire that empathy. So when we're trying to take care of people or understand people, you never know if that person in your workplace is maybe going home and taking care of a sick child, a sick parent, a sick friend, a sick spouse. you never know if they themselves are dealing with something really, really hard. Oh, thanks. And so empathy is what's going to really distinguish us as business analysis professionals because we deal with people. Machines will never have empathy. There is no way that you can replicate this as human beings. So when you're dealing with these hard things and you want to have empathy, listen to someone. If you're listening and having a conversation with someone and they're telling you something hard that's going on in their life, avoid the temptation of sharing something similar to what you went through. Instead, just say something like, that seems really hard. Or maybe someone had a bad day and the meeting didn't go well and they didn't feel as prepared as they should have been, and they knew it could have gone better, and they're talking to you about it. You can just say, I hate it when that happens to me. Empathy is not don't ever say something like, well, like in the case of my mom, well, at least you got to take care of her in her home. There's no at least that is helpful in empathy. That is sympathy, and it's driving that disconnection with people. So recognizing that people are all going through hard things. Every single one of us has something hard that we're dealing with in our life. And we need to give people the benefit of the doubt. We should assume positive intent and really understand. I know that can be hard, but truly helpful. So empathy, important part of emotional intelligence. Thank you for listening to my story about that. Next slide, please, Michaela. Another part of emotional intelligence is motivation. So motivation is something that is important for us to have, and it will be an example to someone else. So why do we need motivation? Well, we should set goals. We should be able to achieve them. And we should be able to encourage other people to set goals. And here comes that word optimism again. So optimism is a really important skill. When I am dealing with difficult meetings or topics at work, one of the things that I often will say is, we have so many opportunities today, when we all know it's a big problem and we don't know how we're going to solve it, and we don't have enough time, and we don't have enough resources, and we've been given an impossible deadline, but we still have to figure it out as a team. So being optimistic is an important part of emotional intelligence, because people need to see that, it can be done. We can work on something. Daniel Goleman, who was developed this concept of emotional intelligence in the 1990s, he offers 4 elements that make up motivation. Personal drive to improve and achieve, commitment to goals, initiative or readiness to act on those opportunities, as well as optimism and resilience, which is another part. There should be an underlying competency of resilience for business analysis professionals, right? So motivation is part of it. The next one is, next slide, is this slide in particular, other way, is intended to make you smile. I'm a mother of 2 sons, and I'm going to guarantee you that we do not communicate the same way. This is not a detriment to either of our communication styles, but instead a funny look at how different people are. We should definitely stay out of judgment when we're talking to people in that social realm of skills. And you don't have to say everything that you think. So even though I might be thinking some of these things, please don't say them. Treat people with respect, with civility and courtesy, and be polite. And that's another important part of emotional intelligence. Okay, next slide. Hopefully that made you giggle a little bit. Things unique to humans. So here we've talked about components of things that are unique to human beings. We have emotions. Machines do not have emotions. We need to be self-aware. We need to self-regulate. We need to develop empathy. We should focus on being on having motivation and being able to motivate others, and practice good social skills. So all these things relate to emotional intelligence and how we can be successful in understanding other people. So next slide, McKay. So really, why does any of this matter with artificial intelligence? Well, we're going to talk about how we can work with AI, how we can help manage fear of the unknown and what's to come, how we can be more effective in change management, another big component of business analysis work, And how do we help people work with AI in a safe way, as well as what's our role in the ethics of AI as we move forward? Okay, next slide, Michele. Let's talk a little bit about change. Now, I don't know if everybody can put a comment in the chat and Michele can interpret for me, but how do you like change? What's your thought about this? What's change for you? Take a minute and share some thoughts. And we can check in.
I'm monitoring the chat.
Thank you so much. Are you excited? And you can ask and interpret if you need to, Michele. What are you excited about change? Does it scare you? Do you like it?
I do love change.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Oh, yes, yes. Good.
So change opportunity, change means we are alive.
Nice. Yes. So so far, pretty positive responses to change, which I'm not surprised when we're dealing with a bunch of business analysis professionals, when there's nothing that we work on that doesn't involve a change of some kind. I can tell you that I really like change, especially when it's my idea.
Well, mostly positive words, by the way.
Yes, I've seen that. That's great. So if we were to ask your stakeholders about change, people you work with, how do you think they would respond? Would they be as positive as this community is?
Not sure.
Learning. Good
Some
word.
people say learning.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, they might be afraid of it. I would say that the majority of people that we work with, depending on how well we've prepared them, are not really excited about change. So part of what we need to do as business analysis professionals is to help them with that change. And specifically to artificial intelligence, some things I've heard is that there's a fear that a person's job would be replaced. Some BAs have wondered, will artificial intelligence take my job? So there's some fear about, do I have a job? There's some concern with artificial intelligence information being wrong. I think we've experienced that as well. And why would my company use a system rather than people? Going back to, you're replacing my job. So there's all this fear, and they're not sure about how it'll impact them. So one of the things that we can do about emotional intelligence is that when we know someone, unknown for sure, it can make us feel uncomfortable. When I'm afraid about something, it's likely because I don't understand it. So understanding and recognizing that people are afraid, using our emotional intelligence skills and recognizing that, can then help us to educate, to give information, to help them teach about how these tools can be helpful to them, and how maybe some of the tedious parts of their work will be replaced and they can do more rewarding work. All those kinds of things are helpful for us. So understanding how a person's reacting to artificial intelligence initiatives will be an important way that we can help. And we need to be really good at change management. So it's critical that we think about change management, and as we talk about this with people. So next slide, I think I've got a picture of a book. There it is. So this book is a very simple book as well. I like the simple books. A man named John Cotter, who has done a lot of research in change, he offers 8 steps in change. And this book is a cute little story about some penguins and how their iceberg is melting, and how they need to make people aware of the change and get them willing to move to find a different iceberg. So the first thing they need to do is to establish a sense of urgency. So when we need to change, what's the problem? If people understand what the problem is, they're going to be much more likely to get on board with making a change. The next step he talks about is forming a powerful guiding coalition, a steering group, a group of experts. a group of people to come together and talk about it, a project team, if you will. The third one is create a vision. Where do I want to go in the future? What is my vision for this change? Fourth is communicating. That was one of the underlying competencies in IABA. How do we communicate? And we have to communicate lots of different ways. It's not just one way. We all learn and assimilate differently. So we have to communicate through email, through text campaigns, through posters, through town hall meetings, through different ways of connecting, small group discussions, however it is. Make sure you communicate and communicate and communicate again. Fifth is empowering others to act on that vision. So you need to give people the authority to make the change and see how they feel about it. Six, planning for and creating short-term wins. So demonstrating success. You might also, a pilot could be a system pilot, could be that short-term win or success. Then you continually evaluate for improvements. You're looking for improvements and how I can change. And then what was old becomes the new way of doing things now. And you just keep repeating this change cycle. So another good resource about change. Okay, thanks. Next slide. So I love this. This is going to be a cartoon. So I want you to think about, I'm not sure how many of you enjoy an annual performance review or semi-annual performance review in your organizations where someone tells you how you're doing. So one of the things that we need to think about is, how would you feel if we instituted an artificial intelligence system to give you your performance review? Do you think this is the kind of feedback you might get? Keep up work. It's not feedback at all. It's not very helpful. It's not actionable. I can't help it. So artificial intelligence tools are great for lots of things, but probably not for everything. So whenever you have a system that deals with people, don't forget to think about the people, think about how they would be feeling, think about their emotions and how they need to be interacted with, and ask yourself about, is this something that would be an artificial intelligence choice? I know for myself, I get extremely frustrated with some of the customer service artificial intelligence solutions that are out there, because I have a question and it's not listed in any of the numbers that I need to talk to. And I just want to talk to a person because I need to communicate what my situation is. So think about that as you're thinking about artificial intelligence solutions. Should I do it? Which is our next slide. So thinking about how we can use a tool, there are lots of ways that we can use artificial intelligence in our organizations. And there might be people that are really eager to have a better profitability. And so they might see an opportunity to use a tool instead of a person. And as business analysis professionals, I think we have an ethical responsibility to make sure we understand the customers that we're serving, who are people. They're always going to be people, right? And the people that are working in our organization as well. So thinking about, yes, we need to think about people instead of human resources. I like that. Yes. We have people that are impacted by these choices. So it's up to us to think about them and how they might respond. I mentioned the completely sensitive story about taking care of my mom and dealing with some of the healthcare situations that I have had to deal with her. So if I am left with a company that I'm working with that has resorted to everything being done through a robotic interaction or through a text communication rather than a face-to-face human being, like, this is my mom, I need to speak with someone who cares about people as well. Some of those companies probably should take a look at what they're doing, and it's up to us to think about that. So even though it's tempting to think about chatbots for everything, challenge our organizations to think about the people involved and how it's going to make them feel. We also have to be sensitive with the information that we're sharing, right? So we have an ethical responsibility to be mindful of safeguarding our information as an organization, as well as individuals. So we need to make sure that we're being sensitive to that. And so should we do it is the next part. Next slide, please. So as we think about all of these things that we deal with as people, and because we are so complex as people, there isn't a single way to do anything, and there isn't a single reaction a person would have. So a machine can learn many, many things, but it's never going to replicate human interaction. I love this picture of this little boy and this little girl working together because we need each other, and we need to be mindful of each other as we work on these solutions. And as business analysis professionals, we are going to need our skills and emotional intelligence more and more and more. And in fact, I think some of the technical things that we can do, and some of the modeling or some of the other components of the hard skills we've focused on traditionally, I think those will become replicated by AI. And what they can't replicate is how we interact with each other as people. So I would highly recommend each of us invest in learning about ourselves and learning about others and how we can be more empathetic and help others along this change journey that we're on in life. So with that, I think I've got one last slide. And I would offer that we should be thinking positive intent with everyone. And I do not believe kindness is ever a bad idea. I think we should always be kind, and we should try to treat each other with the most respect and gentleness as we can, because life is hard. It's also beautiful. It's also very joyful, but we're all dealing with hard things in our own ways. And so be kind and you'll be better off. My last slide, I think, is just how to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for giving me some time, Michaela. I'm glad that you asked. It's always good to see you, and so proud of all of you in Italy and all the good work you're doing.
Heather, thank you very much. Let me see first from Gustavo, our volunteer, if there are any questions from the audience, because I have seen many people writing in the chat.
Yes, they have been writing, but there are not any questions.
No specific question that
No,
we're
no.
participating. So a few comments, Heather. First of all, I understand that emotional intelligence is very emotional. And this
It is.
something.
And you know that I'm always emotional. I cannot be emotional without very passionate about this career and everybody. It's who I am.
Yeah, I was trying to empathize with you. That's but I can, no, I'm not kidding, but I can understand that how difficult sometimes is to manage people, and especially our old people, our parents, that the more they become old, the more they become kids, actually. So they need us to transform into parents. This is not easy. But I have learned, first of all, thank you very much for this wonderful tool, which is called the Wheel of Emotions. And I'm going to take and stick on my wall because I think it's very important for us to recognize our emotion. And also, thank you for the other comments on how to do next, because while I was looking at the wheel, I was saying, well, okay, I can recognize my emotion. I can use it to recognize emotions of others, but what can I do then next? So the other comments about self-regulation and other elements and empathize were important for that. Another big thank you, because I finally understood the communication between men and women, why it doesn't work. So maybe I will invite you for the next speech on how to improve communication between men and women. And a final comment, it's about the use of artificial intelligence, and I can understand your point. It's very important, because there is a risk that the more we have this tool, this very powerful tool, the more we tend to isolate, the more we tend to not count on other people, and the more we tend to not trust people. We trust the artificial intelligence, not our partners, collaborators, or whatever. So there is this important risk, and I think that we need to think on how to manage that. So that's really an important ethical concern. So thank you very much again, Heather. And let me see if there are any comments. And by the way, I'm so happy that I'm closing BAWI 2024 with you with this wonderful presentation. And I believe it's inspiring for many other people. So thank you again, Heather, for staying with us.